So, the new Minecraft snapshots have insanely cool experiments for buffing minecarts, and I think it's really good. And so, I'm making this video for my ideas for how Minecraft should improve transportation, including minecarts and other methods. First one, this might seem a bit excessive, but I think minecarts should go 60 blocks per second. And I'll tell you why I want them to go that fast in just a moment, but for some perspective, this is that speed. Yeah, pretty fast. And with a player... Boing. Yeah, it's very fast. And basically the reason why I want it so fast is because it would mean that ice boats would be better for longer trips and diagonal trips, because they max out at 72 blocks per second but take a while to accelerate. Also, ice boats can go diagonal no problem. Minecarts can't really go diagonal, but minecarts are better for shorter trips and straighter trips. I mean, I guess you could do something like this, but it would be vastly inefficient. I've done some testing. An ice boat and the minecart with a speed of 47 take the same amount of time to go 500 blocks in a straight line. And so given that ice boats have a diagonal advantage, and given that it's actually 60 instead of 47, I think it should be pretty balanced between minecarts and ice boats for transportation late game, which will encourage players to build one or the other to start and then maybe incorporate both into their worlds when they realize that one or the other is faster for specific locations, because it can be pretty close sometimes. Or it can be not, or one can be a clear winner. It has variety. I've now switched out the power rails for a new item I've come up with and textured myself, the copper rails, which can have varying speeds depending on the oxidation level. And they're basically the same as powered rails functionally, as in they don't curve. I considered letting them curve, but then I realized you could make something really overpowered by putting the clean copper rails, the non-oxidized version, with powered rails, and that'd be extremely overpowered for going diagonally. But anyway, let's stop yapping, and these normal copper rails go 40 blocks per second, which I thought was useful for like downhills and roller coasters pretty much. These are exposed copper rails, which will go 30 blocks per second, which I thought was ideal for like roller coasters just more generally, rather than just the downhill elements. Still pretty fast. These weathered copper rails go 20 blocks per second, which is actually not really as much for roller coasters as it is for technical purposes, as 20 blocks per second is the same speed that Hopper minecart deposits items, being 20 items per second, which means that each time it goes over a block, it will deposit exactly one item, assuming there's hoppers underneath, making it perfect for super smelters and really good and even revolutionary for items hoarders. Weathered copper rails could have a lot of technical applications and actually really change up the storage meta a little bit. Finally, we have the oxidized copper rails going at a measly, just barely faster than old rail speeds, 10 blocks per second. Which I thought would maybe good for going uphill on a roller coaster or model train sets as decoration and builds, as I've done once. And so those are my ideas for rails. And if powered rails got it to be 60 blocks, that could be great for fast travel and would really balance ice boats well. And so don't forget to subscribe. It's free and it really helps out. You can always undo it later. But anyway, let's get back to revising the Elytra. I mean, not get back to revising the Elytra, because this is our first time with the Elytra, but let's get back to revising transport, I guess. So, I came to the realization that the problem isn't Elytra. The problem is fireworks. As a demonstration, if I just go like this, infinite free flight, infinite escape from danger, and it's just super cheap and just incredibly overpowered. This is what ruins Elytra for me. And so, I was thinking, what if no more firework boosting? Simple as that. And actually, for the last little bit, I've been trying that in my hardcore world, which has been actually quite fun. For full transparency, there is one exception, one place where I will use fireworks for elytra boosting, and I'll tell you more about that later. For my transportation, I usually use a mix of wind charges and riptide. And I'm sorry for the weird trident texture, I'll get to that in a moment as well. But riptide is really good because it allows you to like use water to your advantage, and dolphins can be really fun for just skirting across oceans real quick. Or sometimes they'll be wild without water. I have water launch pads all over my builds, except in the nether, of course. Or I could just find the nearest natural water source and woo! One more thing I forgot to mention is that the Riptide allows for very fast travel in the Raine, which means that when Raine comes along, it's basically a beckon to the player to go out to explore, which is really cool because it's basically just an optional exploration opportunity that you can take if you want to, and I found that actually quite fun. And another idea I had was if you put hot chorus fruit, gunpowder, and paper together, you'd get some chorus rockets. And trust me that this texture looked a lot better in my photo editing software. In my hand it looks decent. In the inventory it looks kind of ass, but in my hand it looks good. And the idea would be that if you craft all these together, you get 2 stacks of rockets instead of 3. And then you could use these specialized rockets for flight, but only in the end dimension. No use of them in the overworld. That's banned. In my experience, removing elytra makes the game slower and less fun, but from my experience, removing fireworks does the opposite. And that's because, from what I've experienced by playing a world with almost no fireworks, asterisks, the progress impairment is negligible, which is good, and it's more fun to play as you have to be more thoughtful about what transportation methods you use. In the Nether, you're going to want to build infrastructure there, because you can't use Riptide, and wind charges are only good for short distance. In the overworld, you kind of have to be a little thoughtful about it. In the end, you have these chorus rockets, you should be fine. And by the way, the reason these chorus rockets are a thing is that people can basically build end hubs. I understand it makes getting end loot easier, and maybe there should be some risk involved in that, but at the end of the day, I think it's more important for players to express their creativity, and removing the ability to clutch from the void would really discourage people from building in the end, which I think is a bad thing. There's a lot of different options for transportation, and there is actually one more that I'd like to get into. This here is my lovely seed. Wow, he tamed immediately, that's awesome. But he's a little bit sluggish. That's the only real gripe I have with him. And so I was thinking we'd buff horses so they can be up to 20 blocks per second if they spawn naturally in the world. And then the player could breed them even further to 30 blocks per second. And by the way, for full transparency, I'm not sure how fast I'm going right now. I just gave the horse speed 10. But anyway, I think the idea of buffing horses both naturally to 20 and then also if you breed them to 30 would be good. And partnered with the fact that rockets are now nerfed, they have some use. Specifically, they'd be useful for long distance nether roof travel if you don't have infrastructure, or rather should I say in areas where you don't have infrastructure. Like for example, if you're going to want to go to new chunks when you update a world, you're going to probably want to use a horse. That's your best bet. And then they're also very good for overworld exploration when there's no water nearby and you don't want to mess up the landscape with the water bucket or don't want to deal with the water bucket, which can be a little bit tedious to use Riptide with. Horses would act as a quick method of overworld transport between when you have Riptide spots or just generally in other situations, just an alternative. And I realized through playing Minecraft, the real reason that players don't bring pets with them on adventures, which players should probably do more, is that the pets are a pain in the butt to transport. You have to go extra slowly to bring a horse or a dog with you along the ride, and that's why I invented the horse call. So the idea is that if you craft a goat horn with a saddle, and this would probably be shapeless, you get a horse call. And yes, this is a custom texture, and the idea is that you blow into the horse call and it summons your steed to your side. There we go. Hello, sir. And I have also made a model for this little guy, which is a new item called the Squeaky Axolotl, crafted with a goat horn and maybe some pink dye and some bones. That would summon wolves instead of horses. And it's basically just a squeaky toy axolotl that you throw like a trident and it makes this sound. And yeah, I just thought it'd be a cute little addition to the game that would summon your dogs, because you threw a squeaky toy. That's how dogs work. And it would probably just be standing dogs, nothing sitting or in a boat or a minecart. And so we've covered everything from the copper rails to the horse buffs, to the elytra nerfs, to the chorus rockets. So leave a like if you're excited for 1.22, and subscribe if you are new, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.